Hello, my name is Kai. I've been wanting to make a serious YouTube video for I don't know how many years, way too long, and I kept making all these excuses for myself, so here I am, in an attempt to make it way less serious. I'm here to just talk to you about the books that I read last month, maybe peppering in some favorites of the month that are non-book related, and if you mess around with that, then stay around and we can be friends. I love listening to people just yap about what they're reading or what they want to create next, or I love video essays. I just love listening to other people talk and enjoy sharing in the beauty of human experience with others, especially when I'm doing something like knitting. So get something cozy to drink. I've got an iced coffee in my really cute thrifted mug. I love this mug. I just have old coffee from this morning, and I added ice and NetPod's cookie butter creamer. Dude, it's insane. And we're just gonna talk about books that we read last month. It's not that many. I used to be in the habit of wanting to read a lot of books every month, and I think this is the year that I'm allowing myself to break free from that feeling that I have to read a bunch of books every month to be a good reader, to be reading seriously. I think Book Talk kind of did that to me, to be honest, but now I just really want to focus on reading heavier material, or reading some of my bigger books that I've been too scared to read, or I don't feel like I have the time to read, even if that means I only read one book that month and it's a really dope book. That's totally fine. So I started off last month with a really big one, and it might not look that big to you. I remember explaining what this was to a coworker, what's in this book, and she was like, "Oh, it should be bigger." Girl, the print is quite fine, and the pages are thin. It's a chonker. This is A People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn, and if you haven't heard of this book, it's telling the untold history of the politics of our country, and it does break down pretty much every big president. Oh man, it's a lot, and it starts with Christopher Columbus, so I felt like that was just kind of funny, because I feel like they talk about Christopher Columbus for the first 3 years of school when you're little, and it's they don't even talk about the important stuff. So this book really opened up a lot for me. A lot of it was yeah, I knew stuff was bad, but then reading stuff that I've never heard of before, I was like, what? That's insane. That's crazy insane. And it also opened me up to a brand new list of books that I want to read, which is really cool, because I'm not really politically, I'm just not well read when it comes to history and politics. So that's cool. It opened up a lot of doors for me to kind of segue into new niche interests in books, and man, have I've been really excited to read more. So this book was definitely a game changer. I would definitely recommend this to everybody, literally everyone, even if you don't watch the news and you don't care about history or politics. I would still say to read this book, because I feel what a gift to know more about what's going on around us, everything that's happening in our political lives right now. It is it is a ripple effect. It is a reflection of things that have happened in the past, and when you read more about what happened in the past, you'll be like, dang, now I understand the cycle. And so I think it's just a really good read. It does take a long time. I made it kind of I felt like I was in school. I was like, you better make sure you read at least a chapter today kind of vibes, And I highlighted a lot, and I don't usually like to write in my books, but I'm starting to get in the habit of like bracketing or underlining and circling things in my nonfiction books, so that, especially ones that are heavy like this, so when I go back and I want to like brush up on a subject that I can't quite remember all the details, I can find the information a lot more easily this way. Really good book. You gotta read that book. I kind of want to say, oh yeah, the next book I read was The Factory by Hiroko Oyamada, because I wanted a short, like, I just wanted, what's the word I'm looking for? Gratification. I wanted a quick gratification after reading that really long book, because it took me so long to read it. I think like 2 weeks straight, 2 or 3 weeks straight of not doing any other hobbies, just reading that book. So I was like, okay, this has been on my bookshelf for a while. It's gonna be short. I've been curious about it. It'll be like a fun little read. And it was, but it just felt kind of short for me. I think I rated it like 3 or 3.5 stars. It's described as being like Kafka-esque, and I guess in some ways it is. It's talking about these 3 characters in Japan who are just kind of like in a weird gray space professionally, and then they get hired at this factory, and it's very ominous. It's just called The Factory, and they're doing these really mundane jobs with really weird rules and just like no real guidelines. There's like no point of what they're doing, and they don't even know what the factory produces or like what the point of the factory is, and they live like on campus pretty much in the factory. It's kind of like if you were to live on a Google campus, but you don't know what they're doing. And it just, I liked the way that it addressed like the mundanity of living and working in a capitalistic society. But I just felt like the ending was just kind of like, I don't know. I felt like I liked where they were going. I wish that they went a little bit further. They like tried a little bit harder almost. But love Japanese contemporary lit fic, like, yes, the vibes were there. It's just, yeah, just could have been better for me. I think the next book I read was Wild Seed by Octavia E. Butler. This is my first book by this author, which is insane. I regret to inform you that this is my first one because it was so good, and it's definitely not going to be my last. I know I have Kindred by her. I think that's the only other book I have by her. But this is part of the Patternist series. It's the first book. I don't have the other books yet, so eventually I would like to finish the series. But I do want to read Parable the Sower as well. So if you don't know anything about Octavia E. Butler, where have you been? But she's a really famous Black author who is she writes sci-fi, but everything that she writes is very poignant about race and class in our times and like in our world. And she just does it in a way that is like, she's giving you the blueprint and she's letting you build the house, you know? And she's really good. But this book was crazy because we're basically following kind of like a godlike figure, or a witch, maybe, if you would like to call her that. I kind of imagine these characters as like, when you think of like Zeus or Hera, you know, they're like depicted as people, their story told as people, but they're gods. That's kind of how I imagine these main characters, Doro and Anyanwu. And so Anyanwu, I think at the beginning of the book, she's like 300 years old or something like that. And she's living in Africa, and she's kind of just thriving, being the local weird woman, like the medicine woman, and taking care of community. She loves community and her like clan. That's her jam. You know, she dies hard for them. And she is kind of going through this struggle of like, oh, I'm like 300-ish years old. I never die. but I have to see all the people that I love get buried. And so she's starting to feel this yearning, and this like, man, like I don't want to feel this way forever. Side note, she can transform into like any animal, any creature, living creature, and also can gender bend, which is super cool. I just thought that was a really cool thing for so I don't know when this book came out. I feel like it probably came out in the 90s or something, because I'm pretty sure Octavia is not around anymore. Came out in this is copyright 1980. Okay, I think that's pretty tight that she is having a gender bending main character. Anyway, so then comes around Doro. He is like the scum of the earth. I hate him. He's a really bad dude. He's just like the epitome of like masculine energy, like narcissistic, wanting to always consume, you know, and take. And so he can like sense her like magical vibe from hella far away, like countries away, and he's looking for her vibe, and he finds her, and he's like, girl, I've been looking for you. And he proposes to her that she comes with him into America, and he's like, I have this plan. I already kind of started my plan, but my real plan is to create like master like beings like us that never die and are magical, etc. And now my plans will be like ultimate, because now there's you who also never dies, because he's created magical beings by procreating with other humans, but he still has never had anyone that stays alive like he does. And now he's met her, so she's like the perfect, you know, thing for him. So he convinces her, and dude ruins her life. Like he literally ruins her life, and she's eternal. So can you imagine having a toxic dude chained to you like that for eternity, bro? So much heartache, so much power, so many feelings. I can't even fully explain to you. This book was insane. Also, there's a part where she changes into a dolphin, spoiler alert, and I freaking love dolphins. So that was probably one of my favorite parts. But really incredible book. Can't wait to read the other books in the series. Now I'm on this like dilemma of like, do I just stick to the pattern of series, or do I hop around and try other books by her? Because this was really good. Everyone's reading Parable of the Sower right now, because apparently it's like very aligned with what's going on in our lives right now. So I feel like that might put me into an existential slip, but we'll see. Man. Okay, so I've got 2 more books, and I do have an audiobook that I'll have to put up for you. Okay, so anyway, Kim Ji-young, born 1982. The way that I kept putting this book off for like so long, and I don't know why. I think I just kept not picking it up, but it was really good. I would say it wasn't what I expected, but it was really powerful. It was very short. It's only let's see, 163 pages, and we're following Kim Ji-young in South Korea, and she's announced Cheonju. Okay, sorry, I got distracted. Anyway, she's in South Korea, and this is just her telling her like average life as a woman in South Korea, and it's telling major moments in her life that made her realize that the world views her and treats her differently because she's a woman or a girl, because she starts noticing these changes at a really young age. And all these like moments, some are like microaggressions that create big aha moments, and some are actually just big moments, are so relatable. And I think the reason why this book was so poignant is that this is a woman in a different time in a really different part of the world, and she feels exactly the same way that I've always felt, and that is so powerful. And if you didn't know, this is the book that kind of was the fire starter for the dang, what's it called, the 3B movement. Sorry, I'm silly. And I can't remember what the B's stand for. Hold on, I'll look it up. Okay, I didn't want to leave you hanging. It's the 4B movement. Oh man. A South Korean feminist movement, primarily online, that advocates for rejecting marriage, childbirth, dating, and sexual relationships with men as a form of resistance against perceived patriarchal structures and misogyny. And the 4Bs are like 4 no's, and like each one is a word that starts with the letter B, but they're all like pretty much just, okay, it's like B, okay. Why would I try to say these words to you when I don't know how they're pronounced? But I'll put them somewhere. And it just means no marriage, no childbirth, no dating, and no sex with men. Anyway, this book kind of like kickstarted that for women online and wanting to start that movement. And that movement actually got a lot of traction in the US, and I don't really see it anymore. But that might be because the Clock app got, you know, seized control over. Anyway, last physical book is Susan Sontag, Regarding the Pain of Others. This is my first Susan Sontag book, and this is another book that I kept every month being like, I really want to read Susan Sontag, and just not doing it. So this made me feel like, man, I'm cultured, I'm smart, I feel like I could wear a little beret and have a cigarette and a black coffee. That's the vibe. Like, I felt like my brain was really working really hard to read this book. But that's cool. I like that it was challenging. It wasn't like, not everything should be a fun read, and I know that's like a weird thing to say because reading is for fun, right? But when you think about like how we're on TikTok or YouTube Shorts or Instagram Reels, whatever you like to use, we like constant engagement and gratification of like, yes, that made me happy, that made me happy, that made me sad, that made me angry, that like instant emotion. Sometimes you have to like work a little for a book, and you might end up working it all your way through the book and not liking it, and that's still really cool. Okay, so anyway, this book is kind of talking about how we view others in the world in pain, in jeopardy, in especially in war zones. She talks about the war a lot, which was kind of part of why it kind of kept like losing me, is like, I don't know why I can't visualize war when I'm reading. Like, some people can read things and they like see the perfect picture. When it's a war, I literally, it just looks like every war movie. I don't know why. But she's talking a lot about how we almost enjoy traumatic events, traumatic media. There's part of us that like enjoys the pain and the suffering of others, and it was really good. I feel like I need to reread it and understand a little bit more. But she talks about mostly war photography. And I haven't read her other book, which is on photography, and I feel like maybe it would be a good way to read, good way to bridge the gap is reading that too. But yeah, she talks about like all the horrors in the world and how we consume that, and how we're just kind of immune to it, like unaffected. And you know, she's not wrong. But this did make me want to read her book called On Camp, Notes on Camp. And then I was like doing a deep dive of like that book because I was trying to find a used copy online. And then a lot of people were mentioning this book called Mother Camp, which is like similar, but it's genderqueer based, and so I got that instead, and I am still looking for a copy of On Camp. But like when I was gonna get Mother Camp, someone literally bought that used copy like the next day, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna buy the next one I see, because like know, but the Susan Sontag one I will see, I feel like, more often. So those are all the physical copies of books. And then I read The Book of Doors. Let me see. The Book of Doors on audiobook. It was quite long. Let's see. What was their debut novel? I'll try to get a little photo for you. Dang, this is so blurry. Oh my gosh. The Book of Doors. Okay. I listened to this on audiobook through Hoopla. I mostly listen to it driving to and from work because I work out of state. So it's like a 2-ish hour drive one way. And then I listened to it sometimes when I was like packing orders for Depop or knitting or something. And it was really good, actually. It kind of reminded me of the same vibe as, what's it called? The Something Life of Addie LaRue? What is it called? I'm blanking. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Gosh, I only have like one brain cell, apparently. It had a very similar vibe. It's like sci-fi, fantasy, romantasy, or whatever, but basically the main girl is just living her life, and she's got this like old man friend that comes to her work, and he's just a chiller. And then one day he dies, and he gives her this book, and she's like, oh my gosh, that's so cool, what is this book? And then he's got his signature in it, but like no info. The pages are blank, and she's showing her girly pop friend, and then she's like, okay, whatever. And then the inscription that her friend, the old man friend, left for her disappears, and she's like, what the heck? Like, you saw that, right? Like, I'm not tripping, that was there. And she's like, no, it totally was there. And they're like, okay, whatever. And then some weird stuff starts happening based around the book, and the book acts as like a portal. And then she finds out that there are other special books in the world, and there are bounty hunters looking for these books, and the rest is history. I can't tell you all of it because then what's the point of reading the book? But it was really good, and it like really drew me in. I liked the characters. I felt like they were really rich characters, which if I'm reading something like that, like that's the whole point I'm reading or listening to it, is because I want like a rich character that I can believe in and like fall in love with. And they had really good characters, and the narrator was quite good. And that's all the books that I read last month. I fear it's already like the 12th or the 13th, and I haven't even finished a full book this month, so that's disappointing. So hopefully I can get better at that for next month. But I have been knitting a lot. I've almost finished an entire sweater, my first sweater ever, and I learned how to knit socks this month. So that's really big. And it's kind of like a mortal dilemma of like to read or to knit, because they're both sitting down activities. And I do like audiobooks sometimes, but honestly, I really love a physical book. I love like the smell and feel of a book, and it just is part of the other for me. Sorry for my ducks, they're being really loud. But that is the end of the video. Thank you so much for staying. If you watched the whole thing through, maybe say hi in the comments so that we can be friends and I don't feel so silly talking to myself. But I really had a good time talking to you about my books. What is your favorite book that you read last month? If you didn't read anything, what is something that you want to read? What's something you're looking forward to reading? Okay, bye. Love you.